Hello, this is Dr. Rody, and in this video I'll be showing how to use the inverse normal command in the CE version of the TI84 Plus calculator. So looking at this example here, it says that the WAIS IQ scores are normally distributed with a mean equal to 100 and a standard deviation of 15. And it wants us to find the 80th percentile of IQ scores, the top 2% of scores, and the middle 95%. So in this case, notice that we know the probability or percentage, 80th percentile, top 2%, middle 95, and instead we're asked to find the score itself. So instead of being given the values within a normal and asked to find a probability or percentage, we're doing the reverse. And if you think back to algebra, when you do reverse, you take the inverse function. So in this case, that's exactly what we're going to do. In the calculator, we have a function called inverse norm. So if I hit the second key, because I want to go to the distribution menu, above vars here it says distribution, D-I-S-T-R. I hit second to do the blue command, and if you look at the third choice, it's inverse norm. Now I can either type the number 3 or cursor down to it and then hit enter. This first part here, A, says it wants the 80th percentile. So the 80th percentile means that 80% of all the scores are going to be below that value within the distribution, and therefore 20% above. So I want, for my percentage, I'm going to choose 0.8. And then I'm going to arrow down to here, and I'm going to enter my mean, which is 100. I'm going to enter my standard deviation, which is 15. Then it says tails. So if you think about the normal distribution, which is bell-shaped and there's tails on the left and right, if I want the area below to be 80%, whatever this value is, that's the left tail. So for percentile, it's always left tail. I choose left, and then I hit paste. It'll put the command on the command screen, and then I hit enter, and I get my result, 112.62. Now usually IQ scores are rounded to the whole number, so I'll go ahead and round that to the whole number. And so the 80th percentile would be 113. Now the next one says the top 2% of scores are at least what value. So if you think about the bell curve, how high does the value have to be to fall within the top 2%, right? Or better, right? So that would be on the right side, top 2%. So that's 2% above the value. 2% of all IQ scores will be at that value or above, 98 below. So in the TI84 CE, you actually have an option to come in here and say inverse norm and say 0.02 and then choose the right tail. Now you could have left it on left tail, you just have to convert the area to 0.98, right? Because the 0.98 below is equivalent to 0.02 above. But if you want to just read the problem, put exactly what you see here, 2%, which as a decimal is 0.02, then you're going to choose right tail. Okay, and so if I put that in there, I'll get that cutoff point between the upper 2% and the lower 98. So that looks like if I round it off to 131. Then it asks, what about the middle 95% of all scores? Okay, so the middle 95% of all scores will be the center, the middle. So I come in here and I say second vars for distribution. I choose inverse norm, and it says 95%, so 0.95. And as I'm going down, I got my mean and standard deviation, and I choose center. Now, before I paste this, let's think about this. The empirical rule says approximately 2 standard deviations. That's an approximate rule, so we're going to look for something between 70 and 130 here. But let's see what comes up. So here we go. And you get 70.6 because, again, that empirical rule is an estimate. So this is more precise. 70.6 and 129.3, so that's a little bit lower than 130 than what we would expect on the empirical rule. So actually I want to do 71 there if I'm rounding to 1 decimal. Again, when you're doing these problems, pay attention to what they tell you to round to. Now the regular TI84 only looks at the area to the left when you're doing these inverse norms. But if you have a TI84 plus CE, then you have the ability to choose left, right, or center part of the bell curve. So be sure that you're aware of what part of the bell curve you're doing relative to your problem and enter it correctly.